My manipulative and controlling mother-in-law insisted that I relinquish control of my $200 million business to my husband and become a stay-at-home mom after we were married. No, I said no. She shocked everyone at a family reunion by yelling obscenities at me. As she publicly humiliated me, she sprang across the dinner table, grabbed my hair, and yanked it viciously. My husband's inaction in the face of his mother's onslaught showed how far he had given in to Helen's poisonous influence. The guests were shocked, and some attempted to step in, but he did nothing. Despite my best efforts, my silence betrayed my raging wrath. With my swift and clandestine plot, I resolved to exact revenge. I received a startling revelation the following day. The wonderful sound of vengeance I had been anticipating all along was the sound of desperate tears. Hi, I'm Mary Lawson, and I've always thought that if you put in the time and effort, you can do anything you set your mind to. I am the chief executive officer of a San Francisco-based conglomerate with a market cap of $200 million. I am 35 years old. Every success I've had in this company is a result of the hard work and dedication I've put into it from the beginning. My work has always taken precedence over my personal relationships. My upbringing in a small town taught me the hard way that achieving one's goals takes time and energy. I was raised with the values of hard work and an education instilled in me by my parents. Over the course of my academic career, I worked really hard to receive scholarships that allowed me to attend an esteemed institution. I was the valedictorian of my business management class. Nothing could ever stop me from launching my own business after that. I devoted a great deal of time and energy to expanding my business and establishing my name in the industry. I used to get up early and stay up late. I was wedded to my job. My friends would tease, and they weren't totally incorrect. Being able to negotiate contracts and see my goals come true has given me great satisfaction in my work. I didn't need love, and it seemed like it would only be a diversion. Meeting Mark Anderson altered that. I had a long-standing association with William Anderson's company, and Mark was his son. Even though our initial encounter was dull, I found myself captivated by him. His infectious energy shone through his attractive blue eyes. His carefree attitude originally made me feel good. His charming immaturity brought a grin to my face, even though he was 38 years old. During a work meal, we struck it off, and I started to imagine a life with companionship. Our connection blossomed, and I could feel the possibility of something extraordinary. Mark was hilarious, and we both loved being entrepreneurs. But his mother, Helen Anderson, cast a cloud on our relationship. She was a demanding and domineering force in Mark's life, and she was overpowering. At first, I tried to run away from my worries, convinced that I could handle whatever came my way. In the end, I was a prosperous entrepreneur. Being in a relationship with a man's mother can't really be that difficult, can it? We chose to tie the knot after a few months of dating. A large number of loved ones attended the magnificent wedding. My profession and my choices would have Mark's full backing, he assured me. I had the impression that I was marrying someone who would be an inspiration to me. However, I quickly came to terms with the fact that I had erred following the wedding. Helen did not miserably delay in expressing her desires. Subtly, it began with some remarks regarding a wife's duty to put her spouse before her job. I didn't let that bother me because I knew I had worked too hard to be controlled by other people. Helen, though, was putting more and more strain on herself every day. Emily, you might want to think about putting your business in Mark's name, she said firmly one day over tea. A decent wife would do it. Perplexed, I fixed my gaze on her. Helen, that is simply not feasible. Living for my business is my passion. I simply cannot relinquish it. Her voice rose as she adamantly asked, "Why not? You're his wife now. Your job should come second to your family." Yes, that was indeed the first step. The increasingly forceful nature of Helen's demands became clear. Whenever I declined his mom's recommendations, I could feel Mark's unease, but he never did anything about it. His unwavering devotion to her seemed to ensnare him, and it severely irritated me. At a family reunion at the Anderson house, things finally started to turn around. I was hoping that this would provide an opportunity for us to bond as a family. Laughter and wonderful cuisine set the tone for a successful evening. But Helen took advantage of the situation to openly challenge me. She summoned me to join her as partygoers chatted. "Emily, can we talk?" She spoke as her eyes narrowed slightly and a false smile on her face. "I really think we need to settle this business matter." My heart started to pound. "What do you mean?" Attempting to maintain a steady voice, I responded. She firmly stated, "You need to transfer your company to Mark," her voice resonating throughout the room. "It's time to put family first." With everyone staring at us, the room grew silent. Gazes from the visitors weighed heavily on me. "No, Helen, I am not capable of doing that," I said very strongly. "I am accountable for my firm. I constructed it entirely by myself." I was startled when she suddenly exploded across the table, yanked my hair fiercely, and her face turned red with wrath. As the electric shock of agony coursed through me, the room erupted in gasps. "How dare you defy me?" Her voice was filled with poison as she yelled. Guests attempted to step in, but Mark remained still, exposing his profound capitulation to Helen's poisonous influence. I felt a searing pang of shame as I glanced around, seeing that this had turned into something much more than an argument. I remained calm and held back tears despite the agony and shame. No way would I let her witness my collapse. In my mind, I made a solemn promise that this was far from my story's conclusion. It wasn't only the attack that made me furious. I could feel it building up within as well. It was because I finally acknowledged that I had let this lady control my life. I made up my mind right there and then that I would not let myself be a victim as I left that gathering. In order to regain control, I would devise a plan to reverse the situation. I merely needed the perfect occasion to exact my retribution, as the seeds had already been sowed. They had no idea that I was more than simply a prosperous entrepreneur. I was hell-bent on getting my hands on what rightfully belonged to me and showing Helen and Mark what they were truly made of. The next phase of my life was about to begin, and I was prepared to stand my ground. A pent-up wrath bubbled up inside of me following the incident at the Anderson family reunion. Despite this shame, my story would continue since I have always taken pleasure in my resilience and ability to endure adversity. On the contrary, it would herald a fresh chapter in my story, one in which I would rediscover my strength and prove to Mark and Helen that they were fools. Following this, I dove headfirst into my work, completely engrossed in my obligations. Not only did I need to come up with a strategy, but I also wanted to divert my attention from the shame. I couldn't stand by and watch this problem worsen. Thanks to a combination of diligent effort and smart business decisions, my company had risen to a $200 million valuation. I had to start planning forward now. To begin, data collection has to be undertaken. With the help of my industry contacts, I started looking into William Anderson's business. I aimed to learn their financial situation and identify any vulnerabilities I could take advantage of. My investigation revealed that the business has been struggling for some time. Sales had been falling consistently, and management seemed to have lost touch with reality. I could handle that level of openness. At the same time, I tried very hard to keep my relationship with Mark appearing regular. Whenever I was in his mother's or his presence, I pretended to be brave. While I pretended not to care, Mark frequently gushed about his family's history, and I would nod in agreement. "It's important to support family," I would add, attempting to blend in. In the meantime, I was busying myself inside with plans to alter the course of events. Going to seminars and other events where I could meet powerful people in business was the first step in my more aggressive networking strategy. My reputation as a strong entrepreneur was being bolstered as I was forming partnerships. I had a clear objective: to set myself up for a takeover or a major undercut of the Anderson family business. During a strategy session with my financial advisor one afternoon, I brought up my plans. Emily, purchasing a controlling share is the only way for you to get control of the Andersons company. However, you must exercise discretion. Their goal is to foil your plans, and they will stop at nothing to do it. As I listened to him, I nodded. I anticipated having to use patience and strategy. This is about more than simply exacting revenge. It's about making it clear that they are using me as a piece in their game. I came up with a plan for my finances with a new sense of purpose. In the background, I began buying William Anderson's stock on the stock market. My standing improved in relation to the number of shares I obtained. I stayed up late doing market research and math crunching. Every minor triumph strengthened my determination. At the same time, I recorded every interaction I had with Mark and Helen. I intended to collect proof of their deceitful actions so I could use it as bargaining chip in the road. I carefully observed the dynamics of the Anderson household every time I went there. Helen frequently used guilt to dominate Mark by belittling him, as I noticed. I was already certain that they needed a lesson before anything happened. I overheard two industry insiders talking about the Anderson family's tumbling reputation one night at a business dinner. A disapproving observer voiced their concern that the company would be forced to divest itself of its assets if current trends continue. My spine tingled at the sound of those words. I needed this reassurance. At the perfect moment, I could charge in for the kill. My resolve to carry out my intentions solidified as the weeks went by. Prospective investors who were seeking opportunities were contacted by me. Obtaining sufficient support to launch a serious offer for the Andersons' majority interest in the company was my objective. An exciting blend of anticipation and resolve washed over me. I had transformed into the mastermind behind my own vengeance, Mary Lawson, the businesswoman. I planned their destruction with great care, and I could almost feel the triumphant roar of victory as I stood before them, bringing their entire world crashing down. The rage welled up again and again whenever I recalled our disagreement at the dinner table, and it strengthened my resolve. I was determined to prove to them how wrong they were about my being underestimated. Their manipulativeness and haughtiness will ultimately lead to their downfall. In due time, I would emerge victorious, forcing the Andersons to face the music for their deeds. Everything was in motion, and I was prepared. Unbeknownst to them, a tempest was gathering, and it would alter the trajectory of our lives irrevocably. I was getting close to the last act of my vengeance, the culmination of my patience and preparation. My strategy to assume leadership of the Anderson family firm solidified as the weeks and months passed. Every day, I toil away in the shadows, stealthily buying stock in William Anderson's business. I needed leverage, so my financial advisor walked me through the complex steps of constructing a stake to provide it. Knowing that I was getting closer to my objective with each update on my acquisitions gave me an electrifying delight. At the same time, when I was in Mark and Helen's company, I kept up my act. I made an effort to have lighthearted talks with my family at dinner time, even though I was secretly preparing to reveal my plans. Mark had no idea that a tempest was gathering beneath the surface. Saying things like, "You've built a great family legacy, Mom," he frequently lauded his mother. I intend to maintain it. Nodding, I would hold back the want to scoff. The tension was building up one night at the Anderson home over a particularly extravagant supper. Dressed in her finest, Helen was in rare form as she boasted about the achievements of her family. "Our company has always been the leader in this industry," she said, her voice betraying her arrogance. "But with a clear vision, it has the potential to reach new heights." My heart was pounding as I gingerly grinned. "Yes, Helen, but a vision must adapt to the changing times," I responded, well aware of the profound meaning behind the words. Her outmoded beliefs were going to crumble, and I wanted her to know it. I was alone with Mark that night after the guests had departed. He served us each a glass of wine and offhandedly brought up his family's illustrious history. "It's a big responsibility, but I know we'll keep it strong," he remarked, his confidence clearly conveying his feelings. Emily, I wish you would think about taking a break from your company. It would be great to prioritize family, you know. I felt the usual surge of wrath as his remarks stabbed me. You are aware, Mark, of the significance of my business to me. I will not simply relinquish it, I declared, making an effort to maintain my composure. His face shifted, and I could see a blend of perplexion and worry forming in his eyes. One of my business acquaintances informed me the next week that William Anderson's company was going to have a board meeting. Here was my opportunity. Attending and introducing myself as a possible partner was my decision. When the Andersons found out that I was now a powerful businesswoman in addition to being the wife of their son, I knew this would rock their world. I got there early on the day of the meeting, my pulse pounding with anticipation. I sat down at the table, composed and assured, amid a sea of stern-faced executives in the boardroom. I made my introduction at the beginning of the meeting, maintaining an approachable yet businesslike tone. As I noticed the looks of amazement on everyone's faces, I spoke up. My name is Mary Lawson, and I think I can bring a new viewpoint to your company. I could detect both curiosity and cynicism when I presented my thoughts. The latter was particularly noticeable among Helen's loyal followers. I emphasized how a merger may be beneficial for my company and how innovation and adaptation could help us thrive in a dynamic market. I could feel the energy in the room changing as I continued to speak. The atmosphere was tense after my talk. Helen appeared enraged as she stepped into the room. A mystery, I wonder. Her voice abrasive as she urged, Emily, you don't have the authority to make demands. After then, a surge of self-assurance engulfed me. Well, I think I am, I said coolly, meeting her stare unflinching. I am here today to talk about the future of your family's business, which I have recently acquired a sizable stake in. Whole room erupted in gasps. After that, there was an almost deafening silence, and I knew I had them in my sights. Mark's jaw dropped and his eyes widened in shock as he tried to absorb the news. The time had finally come for me to prove to them that I would be more than just another pawn in their game. I had been patiently waiting for this moment. It was time for the climax of my vengeance, and I was prepared to make them face the music for their hubris. I was eagerly anticipating their response as the power dynamic was about to undergo a drastic change. As my announcement lingered in the air, the boardroom's atmosphere became electrifying. She lost her calm, and I could see the reddening of Helen's face. This is absolutely unacceptable, she exclaimed, her voice growing increasingly agitated. Our family business is not for you to meddle in. Still, I held my ground with an even-keeled grin on my face. Helen, I really do have every right to do this. I am committed to seeing the company succeed as a major shareholder. Some modifications are needed, and I aim to spearhead them. As he tried to process what he had heard, Mark, who was still reeling from shock, looked to his mother for comfort. Emily, what are you trying to say? Are you a part of it? He seemed perplexed and amazed that I had managed to outwit them. His tone reflected this. Indeed, Mark. I was building my own legacy while you were focused on family legacies and traditions, I answered with an unfaltering tone. A new course of action is required for your family's business at this time, one that welcomes innovation rather than stubbornly clinging to antiquated methods. With her fingers quivering by her sides, Helen's frustration was obvious. Do you honestly believe that you can stroll right in and assume control? In my family's eyes, you are insignificant. Her voice betrayed her contempt as she retorted. With my gaze fixed on hers, I leaned forward. Therein is your error, Helen. Without any outside assistance, I was able to start my business from scratch. You've underestimated me at every turn. I'm more than just a name in this industry. The rest of the board members were spellbound, with a few of them looking at each other in disbelief. I went on, speaking to them by name. Adaptation is key to the company's future success. In order to reinvigorate both of our companies, I suggest we merge. We can achieve even greater success with my help. I laid out my plan for the discussion as it went along, explaining how the merger would be beneficial and what strategic advantages it would offer. There was a slow but steady change from animosity to interest throughout the room. My self-assurance skyrocketed as I felt like I was making progress. Nevertheless, Helen had more to say. "Emily, this is far from done. Is it your intention to simply plunder us? I will not tolerate it." The urgency in her speech betrayed her inner turmoil, and I could almost feel her plans coming to fruition. "Here's the deal, Helen," I stated with a level head. "Nothing from you will ever be taken by me. I am providing you with an opportunity to adjust and succeed. But you'll have to deal with the fallout of your choices if you deny reality." The audience was silent as I ended my talk. In order to gauge the board members' emotions, I glanced around. Gradually, they started nodding in accord, with some even talking amongst themselves. Right then, I realized I had successfully won them over. Standing tall, Helen's expression a blend of indignation and shock. "Emily, you are going to lament this." With a spitball, she spewed forth her disapproval and stormed out of the room. She departed, and I looked over at Mark, who appeared bewildered even now. For Mark and me, this is the start of something new. We can create something remarkable if you're open to new ideas and flexible. His expression was one of confusion as he gazed at me. "Emily, I am at a loss for words at the moment. Everything is turned upside down for me." "Then let's flip it upside down," I said, smiling and handing him something to reassure him. "If we're in this together, we can succeed." Those weeks after the changeover were a roller coaster. I was prepared for Helen's efforts to rally against me, influence the board, and undermine my goals. I had planned ahead of time and collected proof of her previous mishandling to bring up at the upcoming board meeting. I reappeared before the board that day, this time equipped with data and statistics. "Look, I'm not the only one involved in this. The fate of this business hangs in the balance. There will be serious repercussions if we let Helen keep using her antiquated methods. I have the evidence to back it up." I could feel the tide turning against Helen as I made my argument. The board started to understand her for what she really was, a manipulative and dominating force that had stunted the company's development and creativity. At the conclusion of the meeting, the board approved my request with a single vote. I experienced a wave of victory when Helen's rule came to an end. I had done more than just lock down my job. I had opened the door to better times to come. It was impossible for me not to feel empowered as I stepped out of the conference room. From being a manipulated victim to a strong leader, I have regained control of my life and business. With confidence and courage, I prepared to spearhead this next chapter. I had discovered that treachery might result in unforeseen victories. At the end of the day, I learned that knowing your value and refusing to let anyone take it away is more powerful than any amount of financial achievement I could have achieved. Though I had triumphed in the end, the struggle for survival in the corporate